We've sacrificed for the past 10 years. We haven't bought new cars. When I bought this house, I said, we have to redo this kitchen. We kept that kitchen for 8 years. My kitchen doesn't make me money. So I'm going to buy the rental property. And so it was sacrifice after sacrifice.
I remember when I made what I made in a year at my last job in a month, Casey. Actually, it was like a weekend. Freaking crazy. $180,000 in 1 month. That's what I made at my highest point at a company that I worked for. It all started with this simple, small idea of just like getting a property.
And do you want to know what took me to the next level? From being the stay-at-home mom to one who owns their own business. You want to know what that was?
I want to know what that is.
All right. It was, you have to change into a different person to reach those results. You're not going to become Alex Hormozy being who you are.
I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about this. I wish you guys could see this right now. Welcome to the JV Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Vasquez. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the JV Pod. I am super freaking pumped because today's episode with Casey Franchini is going to be freaking amazing. You guys are going to love it. We talked about a lot of things, and here's what you're going to learn. We talked about how a victim mindset will actually hold you back. We also talk about building a real estate business and what that actually takes, what you need to have, and what kind of grit and perseverance needs to be a part of that. And also what it's like to raise children while still seeking a strong and passionate mindset in building a business. I don't think people realize that sometimes being a mother in a household requires a ton of work. But how do you actually do that while you have kids? And how are you actually doing that as a CEO? We dive into all those things. And one of my favorite things about this episode is we really break down not about real estate, but about the entrepreneurship of what it actually takes to build a successful business. So without further ado, here is Casey. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the JV Pod. And today I'm super freaking pumped because we have Casey Franchini. And I said that right, Casey?
You sure did.
I did. I'm super excited, and ChatGPT helped me with that beforehand because I really hate when people butcher my last name. So I didn't want to mess yours up. But today, Casey owns a ton of real estate. She also has Brick by Brick Wealth, which is a platform where you teach people how to invest in real estate. But I think I want to go a little bit deeper in the conversation today, Casey. I really want to talk about what it actually takes to create a business. And today's going to be less about numbers and more about resilience and grit and mindset. So, Casey, let us know who you are, where you're at, one thing about you, something interesting about you. Let's dive into it.
Sure. So I'm Casey. Hi. I'm a born and raised SoCal, so Southern California girl. And we moved to Memphis, Tennessee in 2013 and started our real estate investing journey. One thing cool about me, I don't know, I've always been a leader and always had that inside me. And I was freshman class president in high school. So that's kind of fun.
Tear your brain.
I always like to be in charge. That's all.
Yeah, I like that.
I like to be in charge.
And a little known fact too, Casey and I are 2 days apart. I was born on May 4th, 1982, and she was May 6th, 1982. Actually, I shouldn't even say the date because
that's all right.
Do you care about that at all? Like
I don't care. No.
Can I tell you something crazy about my 40th birthday? Like that actually really killed me, Casey. When I turned 40, I was like, dudes aren't supposed to care about birthdays, but somehow 40 really jacked me up. I was like, I'm turning freaking 40 because I remember like, and maybe this happened to you. Let's talk about this for a minute. Like when I was like 19, 20, 24, 27 even, I thought people that were like over the age of 40 were just done. Like that was it. They're like antiques already. They're like fossils. Like this is done. But like, I feel like I'm 42 right now. I feel like I'm like literally just getting started, which is freaking wild to think about.
Yeah, I feel like you're only old now if you're dead. That's my new, how old is too old? If you're dead, then you're old. That's my new rule of thumb. Yeah.
I'll go with that. We'll go with that. So before you got into real estate, let's talk about that. Because I know you had a 9-to-5 job. You had super long commutes. It was super similar to what I was doing. And I think a lot of people that listen to this show and podcast deal with these same scenarios where they are not necessarily at a job that they love. They're probably on commutes. I drove from, I'm in California too, in Northern California, from Central Valley to the Bay Area every day. And that was about an hour and a half drive. So, 3 to 4 hours of my day was spent commuting. And that freaking sucks. So what drove you to actually seek a better way? Like, talk to us about that.
So, I did all the things. I did all the things society tells us to do. I went to school. I did extracurriculars, right? I was freshman class president. I was president of this and this and that and clubs and this and that and getting A's and doing, well, I wasn't really into sports, but I tried track once and I was like, screw that. Too much work, too hard. So I did all the things because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to school. You're supposed to get your degree. You're supposed to go get a job and live happily ever after. So I was on the road to doing all those things. And throughout my life, so I had two people in my life, my mom and my dad, and they were like little birdies on my shoulder, on each shoulder. And my mom, she was the hardworking 9 to 5 nurse. She would work nights, she would work weekends, she would whatever she did. She was the breadwinner of the household. She had the steady income, the steady job, and she always said, "Casey, don't be like your father, who was an entrepreneur at heart, never quite made it like he wanted to, but he was the entrepreneur. My mom was the hardworking 9 to 5er that said, this is the way, this is the path, do what I'm doing." I'm like, okay, mom, okay, I'm going to get my degree. I'm going to go get a job. And then my dad says, "Casey, now I live in Southern California. Do you see that freeway down there?" And I say, "Yeah, Dad, I see the freeway. Do you see all those cars bumper to bumper going to Los Angeles?" I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, I see the bumper to bumper cars. Do you see the cars the other direction? You see the freeway go the other way?" "Yeah." "There's hardly any cars driving that way, Casey. It's free flowing. That's the way you need to go." Now, that was like his metaphor, right? Don't follow the herd of people. Don't do what everybody else is doing. There is another way, a better, easier way, but you have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to think differently. And he was always putting those little things in my mind throughout my life. But then my mom, she's the one making the money. She's the one making the world go around. So I'm like, okay, mom. So I got my job. I got my first job. I grew up in Chino Hills. I got my first job in Newport Beach, fancy public relations firm. I mean, it was posh, right on the beach. But it was an hour and a half drive. I would leave in the dark. I would come home in the dark. It wasn't super far, but there was a lot of traffic, right? California, a lot of traffic. And I was crying on the way home, like, this sucks. Is this what life's supposed to be? I mean, I went to school and got good grades and worked my butt off so I could leave in the dark and come home in the dark and just cry because work's hard. And what the hell is this life? Like, what? This is what my dad was talking about. So I'll be honest, Jesse, I had that job for 3 months. The only real, quote, full-time job that would have provided benefits I've ever had in my life. That was it for me.
Are you serious?
That was it. Yep. Never ever got benefits. I was right about to get benefits and then I quit.
Oh my gosh.
Never seeked out a full-time. I had part-time jobs because I was doing real estate on the side, but never did I ever have a full-time job paying benefits in my life besides those 3 months.
Yeah, let's talk about how old were you at that time? Like that 3 month job. Like,
I'd have to take the calculator for the dates, but it was after college. So I graduated in 2005. I was on the 5-year plan because I switched majors, and it was around then, 2006, maybe
24,
five. Sometime
25.
around that. So right after college. Yeah.
Got you. Okay, cool. So you took that job, and what was that aha moment for you that pushed you to take that leap in entrepreneurship? Because I mean, I think it's pretty cool already that you've had your dad giving you those tips, and although you didn't see him, you know, make this super successful, multi-million dollar company, you still watched him kind of create something that he wanted to do, and he did it on his own. And I had the same thing with my dad. My dad actually worked a W-2 job, but then would go and buy a freaking carpet cleaning like van or like a thing and try to do that for a little while. Run ads in the newspaper. You remember that? The newspaper, like people used to run ads. There was no
Yeah.
Facebook that dropped stuff on there. He would do that. Then he'd go back and he got his real estate license. And he'd go back and he went to college to be a botanist, which I don't know why the hell he wanted to do that. But I watched him like do all these different things, but he never really told me anything like what your dad said, like the freeway's going this way, you want to go that way. I never really had that kind of push to do it, but I'd watched him and I kind of watched how he was trying things that he wanted to do while he was doing a W-2 job. And I think that right there is where people get so stuck in this like mindset of, I need to hustle and I need to grind, but you do need to do that. But at a certain point, there becomes a moment where just like, I'm going to go all in on this. So what was that aha moment for you that you just like, was it sitting in the car crying on the way back?
It was crying in the dark, like, this blows. And I knew, I mean, I'm a girl, right? I knew I wanted kids. And I'm like, how am I going to ever have kids and be able to raise children if I never see them? Now, I was lucky, right? My dad was the entrepreneur, so I never went to a babysitter. My dad did end up working for his sister in between all of his things. So when my sister was younger, and she's 10 years younger than me, she did go to the babysitter. And she is a full-fledged, amazing zillionaire, as I always say, entrepreneur, because she was not going to put her kids in daycare like she was. So I never had the daycare, was not a daycare kid. But I knew that I wanted my parents around. I wanted to be around. And so I said, well, I'm going to do something that I love. I do love public relations. I love communicating. Like, look, I kind of do it now. Like, I'm on a podcast. I love that sort of stuff. So I was right with the degree and all the things, just the way I was using it was wrong. Writing press releases for a PR firm was not my idea of living life and then coming home in the dark. And then my press releases weren't good enough. So rewrite again. It's like, this sucks. So when I quit, I said, I'm going to do something that I love. Just like my dad said, work on your passion, do what you love, and then won't feel like as much work. I said, well, what do I love? What do I love? Well, I'm only 20 something years old, but I do love real estate. Being in California, especially in the economic housing boom during the early 2000s, there were tons of new builds and new developments going up all the way from Los Angeles to the desert, down into San Diego. And I would drive to see every single one of the new developments. I went visit all the builders' homes. In California, they're allowed to put open house signs on the curb, not out here in Tennessee. So every weekend, I would look at every single open house. Mom, Dad, stop. Let's look at an open house. And when I was driving, I would stop and look at all the, like, I wasn't going to go buy a house, but I wanted to see inside. I loved houses. So I said, I'm going to become a realtor. That was the first thing. I'm going to be a realtor because I'm going to be able to make my own hours, and when I have kids and when I get married one day, I'll be able to, have all the free time and manage my time, whatever. So I started real estate. I got my real estate broker's license in 2007, right before the market crash. Now, when I when I was that age in my 20s, I looked really, really young, really young. And it was difficult for me to get listings. Now, in Orange County, California, even at the time, home prices were $1 million. And it was hard because I looked 14, right? Even though I was in my 20s, I looked 14. So I did get some listings, but it was difficult for me to get $1 million listings because these people were like, 60-year-olds were not wanting a 14-year-old to list their home. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter how old I really was. But I did find my niche with real estate investors. And that kind of propelled me more towards the real estate investing sector because they didn't care if I was green or from Mars. If I found a good deal for them, they were happy about it. And so I found some really great deals for some real estate investor clients and kind of built my name that way, finding deals. Because my dad also worked on houses. We bought a fixer. The house I grew up in for most of my life, my dad purchased on a VA loan. It was a legit crack house. I mean, there were needles in the walls. They converted the garage into a cell room with like stoves. And they had like 5 or 8 some ridiculous amount of pit bulls the old owners had. So it was actually a crack house. And my dad bought it on a VA loan, and we worked on fixing it up for 10 years. And so my trips with my dad on the weekends were to Home Depot and Lowe's, even though I hated it. I hated going to Lowe's and Home Depot on the weekends, mostly Home Depot at the time. It really taught me a lot about real estate. So it definitely helped come time for my, my broker license and helping investors because I knew how to fix up houses. I knew, what thicknesses of drywall and different types of windows and electrical and all those things because I had to help my dad.
Yeah. So did you have a tool belt on? Were you out there like HGTV style, like freaking cracking holes in walls, taking out needles and stuff like that? What was going on?
Kinda. I know I did not get a tool belt, but it was more like, Casey, get over here and help me with this. Casey, get over here and help me with this. Like, oh, okay, Dad, I'll go help. So, I learned how to paint. I learned what holidays were when you're painting and all these, fun little terms. And I didn't want to help, but I did help. And I did learn a lot. Yeah.
That's awesome. Was your dad like a handyman, like could do electrical, pretty much everything?
Do absolutely everything.
That is
Everything.
freaking awesome. Do you still have your dad around?
Yes, I do. Yep.
You are very lucky. That is awesome. So that's cool. Okay. So you left that job at 20 something years old, only there for 90 days. You're the first person I've ever met that stayed at a job for 90 days, by the way. So I'm giving you that gold star. And then you got into real estate. So when you did that, were you back at home with your parents? Were you like trying to figure stuff out? Were you like, what was going on at that time?
I was living with my parents. I was. And then Around 2007, my husband's grandpa was in the old folks home and he had a vacant house and we got married 2009. We weren't married yet, but I'm like, Blake, like your grandpa's house is in North Orange County and it's empty. He's not dead, but why can't he's never moving back? So we kind of moved into that house. So I was kind of living between that house in North Orange County and then my parents' house until my younger sister wanted my room. And my parents packed up my bedroom and put it in the living room and said, come take this stuff. Then I
Oh
got
my
kicked out.
God. Yeah, that's kind of what's happening right now with my daughter. She took off to college in San Diego, and then my two boys were sharing a room. He took her room, and now I created this office that has a little sleeper sofa over here. So when she comes, which she's actually here right now, she sleeps on the sofa, but then she goes back to school. So I probably need to upgrade a house because I've been living in this house for like it's my first. I mean, this a couple of properties that I bought. I lived in this house. I haven't bought another one. I need to upgrade probably at some point, but. Okay, so I just want to make sure that we go through this because there's some really important lessons that I want everybody to hear right here. First off, I think it's important to realize, and I told my daughter this sometimes, I think a lot of kids now are going back to live with their parents for a certain amount of time, but it's really important and powerful to be able to like save money while you're doing that. And so I know that you started an Etsy company,
Yes.
and you were also doing real estate. Was that around the same time when you started your Etsy shop?
This was a few years later. So the 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, I was a real estate agent, lived in California. In 2013, my husband got a job offer. We were 30. I remember this year. We were 30. And most Californians say, how do I get out of California? California sucks. How do I get out of California? Everyone, how do we get out? How do we get out? We can never afford to buy a house here, blah, blah, blah. So I told my husband's best friend, Nick, I said, look, and we were, our 30th birthday, I won't forget. We went to Lake Havasu and, had a great time. But I was completely wasted. And I told my husband's best friend, get us out of California, get him a job in Tennessee. Like, we'll come. I promise we'll come. So a week later, he goes, were you serious about what you said in Havasu about moving out to Tennessee? I was like, yes, we will move, get him a job. And so a week later, Blake had a job interview in Memphis, and we've been here ever since in 2013. So we moved to Memphis in 2013 with a 3-week-old baby. My son was 3 weeks old, a 2-year-old, and our cat. I knew nobody. Our friend Nick lived here, but then he left us back for San Diego 6 months later. And he was actually just here today visiting. But we moved to Tennessee and I knew nobody. And, having that entrepreneurial spirit in me with my dad, I wasn't being an entrepreneur. I was a stay-at-home mom, which was good, right? I didn't do real estate anymore. I moved here and it was not making any money. And I was depressed, Jesse, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I was depressed. You, first of all, probably depression from just having a baby, first of all. But second of all, also not making any money, right?
Yeah.
So here I am, went to school my whole life. I have a bachelor's degree, and I know I have all this drive in me for success, and I'm just a mom. I'm just a mom sitting here in this house that we got to fix up. And I married someone like my dad, who, not the entrepreneurial spirit, but fixing up. So we bought a fixer. We're still here today, 13 years later. But we bought this property and I was depressed. And I said, okay, well, how do I get out of my depression? I want to make money, but I don't want to go back to selling real estate because I really hated driving. I hated working with buyers. I really did not enjoy that. Now, I still keep my license. My California license is right there on my wall. My broker license is active still so that I can get referral commission on my own deals I buy for myself. But otherwise, I'm not selling for anyone. So it's 2013. We're here. We have babies. I'm depressed and I want to make some money. And I tell my husband, look, I want to buy real estate. I want to invest in rental properties. And I know we couldn't really do that in California, but I want to do that here. This is Memphis. This is one of the top markets in the whole country to invest in. Like, I'm not going to chicken out. We're going to do this. And he said, well, Casey, where are we going to get this money from? We just bought our first house and it was a fixer and you're not working. And this is my brand new job. And I don't like taking no for an answer. Being a Taurus, I'm stubborn and I'm going to get what I want. Some way or the other. I can't even tell myself no. That's why diets don't work for me. I don't listen to myself. So I said, okay, I'm going to figure this out. Well, what can I do to make money that I like? Because I'm not falling into the doing things you don't like trap again. I did that and I'm not doing that ever again. Well, I don't want to do real estate. And I thought, well, what do I like to do? I like to do crafts, right? What girl doesn't like glitter and making cute cards or crafts or whatever?
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So I bought a Cricut machine, which is like a die cutting machine or a silhouette. You guys might have heard about that. You've probably seen like people make Disney t-shirts or
Yeah.
tumblers with little, okay. So I started an Etsy shop, and I remember, this is the funny thing, Jesse, and this is something we should talk about. The machine cost me $300, right? Which you and I are like, $300. I mean, we blow about going out to dinner now. But at the time, I was like, I'm not going to spend $300 on this machine. What if I don't make $300 back? And my husband, always so, what's the word? He's always so helpful and optimistic, you know. He says, Casey, even if you don't make $1 from your Etsy shop, at least you would have learned a skill, and you can make things for our family. So I said, okay. I took me a while, probably a month or two, to actually spend the $300 on this machine. But the thing is, if I hadn't bought that $300 machine, I wouldn't have been able to save up $20,000 in a year and a half, making little items between my kids' naps, between when they're awake. My husband would go drive downtown to work, and while they were napping or at night, when he was home and could wash them, or on the weekends, I would fulfill these $5 orders, $5 personalized bunny rabbits, $10 t-shirts, made some other things. But it took me a year and a half of literal blood, because I would cut myself with the stupid razor blades,
Yeah.
blood, sweat, tears, crying, working, for hours for $10. A year and a half it took me to save up 20 grand. But I did that for my first rental property because I wasn't going to take no for an answer. I didn't care how long it took. I wasn't asking for handouts or saying, oh, I can't do it because I don't make enough money and society's holding me down and my job doesn't pay me enough. And, oh, my kids are holding me down, or my husband doesn't support me. These are all the things I hear on a daily basis on my Instagram, why people don't have money to get started in real estate. And it's like, shut up is what I want to say. Like, shut up. I just can't stand that loser mentality. Figure it out. Figure it out. Okay, it's not going to be overnight. You're not going to get your success story tomorrow, but start something, sell a service, sell a skill, have some drive and do something, take action. And it might take a while, but eventually, like me, you'll save up the money that you need to get started in real estate.
Yeah, I think that's something really powerful because, I mean, I talk to people all the time, just like you do. We both probably get a ton of DMs from people, and they're just like, you're this, and you've been able to build this already. And I just had a webinar the other day, Casey, a couple days ago, and somebody came up on their ass and is like, you've been able to build this career so fast and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, do you realize I've been doing this for a decade? Like, you're seeing a decade worth of work in a webinar that is 45 minutes long. And they came up, at the very end, you ask a Q&A questions, and this woman came on. She's like, yeah, how did you do this so fast? You did this. And exact same scenario. I have 2 kids, and it's really hard for me right now, and I'm struggling in the economy. And I get it. But I think there's a certain point where you have to realize that you're not a victim to society. You're not a victim to yourself, or even a lot of people have been through horrible things. And if you allow those things to kind of keep you where you are, you'll always stay where you are. And like, I have friends like that. I have family like that. And the crazy thing about this is once you get through the other side of that, it's like the Matrix, Casey, where you start to like, it's almost like you want to tell everybody that, but they have to like go through their own process of learning through self-development and those things to be able to get to see the Matrix. Because once you learn this, you can't unsee it, right?
That's right.
So I feel like that with you too, where it's like, there's another way, there is another potential to do this. But my question for you is, when you doubted yourself, or people doubted your vision, which, like your husband was super supportive of you, how did you respond? Did you have anybody saying like, this is stupid, Casey, this is not a good idea? It sounds like you didn't have friends when you went to Memphis, but was your family saying that? Or your dad was probably just like, no, do it. This is the way to go.
Well, the Etsy was easy. Everyone can understand and identify with starting a little Etsy shop. And I sold stuff on Facebook resale sites and did porch pickup and all that stuff. Oh, look, I made $1,000. Oh, look, I made $600 here or there, whatever. So, okay, great. It's a little chunk change and easy. Well, when I started buying real estate, I didn't tell anybody for 4 years. I didn't
Yeah.
tell anyone.
You didn't tell anybody?
I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my
Yeah.
parents. I didn't tell my neighbors until they kind of found out. I'm not a good secret keeper. I'm not a good liar. And
Yeah.
so when you're around, I did get some neighborhood friends. And so after, when real estate's kind of your whole life and that's your day to day, and I was self-managing my properties and I had tenants and I had issues, and Blake and I had to go like, why do you have all this stuff on the curb at your house? It didn't come from your house. As well, I brought the stuff home from the rental house and put it for the trash guy, because our trash people pick up our trash, not in Memphis, but in Germantown where I actually live, they do. So then you start having to tell people things. And the real estate stuff was where I got a lot of flack from my neighbors and friends that
Were
didn't
you embarrassed
understand.
Were you embarrassed that you had a secondary property?
No, I wasn't embarrassed. I wasn't embarrassed. I was proud of myself. I knew that this was the way. They're uninformed. They just don't know what they're missing out on. And now that we're in a different financial place than my friends are now, it's hard to identify with them.
Yeah.
I sent my daughter on a trip to New York for school last summer and it cost $4,000. And it was like a no brainer to go do that. And I asked my other friends, hey, are you guys sending your kids to the New York trip, the eighth grade New York trip?
Mhm.
And, "Oh, no. Oh, we can't afford to do that." Like, that wasn't even a thought, and I'm like, "Oh," you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the thing is that we've sacrificed for the past 10 years, and we haven't bought new cars. We have a new car now, but for 8 years, I when we bought this house, Jesse, I told you it was a fixer.
Yeah.
The kitchen was original white, original counter, original cabinets, wood, painted white 50 times over, with blue laminate countertops and wallpaper backsplash, okay, from the
Yeah.
90s, which was their upgrade, but the cabinets were original 50s
Yeah.
or 70s, I guess. When I bought this house, I said, this is the first thing to go. We have to redo this kitchen. We kept that kitchen for 8 years, 8 years until it literally started falling apart. Because every year I would ask myself, do I want to spend $30,000 on a new kitchen? Or do I want to spend $30,000 on a down payment for another property? And the answer was just so easy. It gives me chills. It's, well, my kitchen doesn't make me money. So the kitchen works. I'm going to buy the rental property. And so it was sacrifice after sacrifice. While my friend spent $10,000 on Disney vacations, bought new cars, did dramatic upgrades to their properties, more vacations, more expensive vacations. And like, we didn't do that. We would go camping. My husband's work had a beach house. We got to use that a couple times. It was just sacrifice. And I knew that we were doing the right thing. And now we're in a different place financially. And they're like, how did you do that? There's no way you make that kind of money, blah, blah. And I'm like, you can too. And they go, oh, no, 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 I don't want to do that. People
Yeah.
just, they're complacent and some people just aren't meant to be entrepreneurs. They aren't meant to have that drive to succeed. And it's okay. They're okay with just the comfort of everyday life. And that's fine. My friend Jessica down the street told me she was going to have to work till she was 75 and she's got $3,000 in the bank account and that and
Yeah.
equity in her home. And I'm like, OMG.
What do you say to that though? Like, cause I have people that say that. I have family members, like brothers, that are like, I can't be like you. I don't want to be like you. I'm going to stay at this job, and I'm going to, I've been here for 30 years already, and my brother's 50, and I just recently got in an argument with him, and he's probably going to listen to this and be like, why are you talking about me on
I know I do the
on
same.
your
It's so bad.
podcast? But like, it's important to me because there's so many people that are in the same situation where they don't think that they have the energy to do something. They've already been at a job for 30 years. They can retire after 35 or 37 years. So why am I going to waste my retirement on the next 3 years but if you look at it, like his retirement's probably going to be like $2,500 a month. Like
Yeah.
that's freaking wild. So like, how do you have those conversations with people like that? And what does that look like for you? And then after this, we'll dive into the CEO kind of mindset of how you started building stuff. But do you have conversations with your friends of like, hey, there is another way? Or are you to the point now where, and I'm almost getting to this point, Casey, where I'm just like, the matrix that I know, I'm just going to keep it between everybody else that knows the matrix, and everybody that doesn't know this anymore, I don't want to push it on them until they come to me for advice. Cause I'm starting to learn that I can't tell people things anymore. And it's not tell, it's like more of like advise unless they actually want to hear it. So what's your thoughts on that?
100%. And this has been the same with my little friend core group that I have out here in Memphis. Was so excited about my rentals. And guys, look, I'm bringing this cash flow. And all the customers said, yeah, we're fixed. Oh, well, we're not handy. It's like, well, we weren't handy either. We weren't born handy. It's called YouTube University. And you learn how to fix a toilet. You learn how to lay flooring. You learn how to do all the things. And, Blake's the one who he had a full-time job, 40 plus hours a week job with two. Now we have 3 kids at home. But he still figured out how to fix everything. He could pretty much build a house. So it's all about the desire and the drive to do it. And some people don't have it. But I would tell my friends, you guys, you can do this. And I had one friend who was like, yeah, we're going to buy a rental property. And then they had a partner and then it never happened. And they never talked about it again. But then my best friends down the street, it started to feel like I would tell them about the success and tell them, hey, look, we just bought a new house. You want to come see it? Like I was so excited. Look, we just bought a house. You want to come see it? I felt like they thought I was bragging, like,
Mm.
you're bragging about it's like, well, no, I'm not bragging. First of all, I'm excited that we just bought out as a friend. Don't you want to come see it? And then, don't you want me to show you how to do? I teach this stuff now, guys, is what I tell them. Like, I get paid a lot of money. I teach how to do this now to beginners. Don't you want, I'll teach you for free. You're my best friends. Don't you want to know how you can do this too? And they're just like, no, they don't want any part of it. They just don't want any part of it. So I try not to bring anything up. I try not to talk about my coaching program or anything because any success now is beyond their comprehension, the success level that I am at, which is not even crazy. I'm not crazy successful, right?
Yeah.
But it's past them. And I can't mention it because it comes across as bragging. So I can't even bring it up. And they really don't even ask me about any of those things anymore.
Hey everyone, if you are feeling stuck or not like you're making the progress you want in your midterm rental journey, I've got something that can change everything for you. Imagine being part of a community that's not only supportive, but filled with like-minded individuals who are driven to succeed just like you. Whether you are just starting out, looking to take care of your business to another level, my community is designed to help you break through those barriers. We're currently opening up registration for new enrollees, so if you're serious about building a thriving midterm rental business, and you want to leverage my 10,000 hours of experience, this is your chance. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn, grow, and connect with others in the same path. I hope to see you guys. The link is in the show notes, and let's build something incredible together. Let's get back to this episode. You know, I had this weird kind of feeling like you did where I didn't tell anybody about what I was doing or anything like that because I felt like I'd be judged or like I thought, people would think I was too good for them. Or I remember when I bought, this was in my 20s, I did a bunch of stupid things like buying cars that were way too expensive because I wanted people to like me, right? To be like, oh, this guy's successful. He's got a $65,000 sales job. That's exactly what I had. And I remember going to this patient's house when I was probably, 27, and I had an Infinity. I just bought it. It was a G35. Those aren't even that fancy. They're like the cheap, cheap Lexus or something. But this woman was like, oh, that's a beautiful car. And I was embarrassed to say that it was mine. I was like, oh, yeah, it's my dad's. And like, I still had that same kind of like mentality 10 years later, 37, 38. It's almost like I felt embarrassed to tell people the successes that I had. I mean, then it was just, it's just a car or whatever. Like, now we know how stupid it is to buy a car and have a car payment. Back then I didn't know. I had to realize that. But like, I was just embarrassed, and people, not even that long ago, I wasn't telling anybody about what I was actually doing.
I was going to say, but you are right on that front with as far as, because I had my real estate, business. And then I have my consulting business where I help new investors with their first rental property purchase. And to me, that's my biggest success. And when I go to Costco in a grocery store and you find those little old guys in the aisle and you're just chatting about bread because they asked you where the Dave's bread is or whatever, and you get to talking and you're there in the middle of the day with your kid and, oh, what do you do for work? I just say, oh, nothing. I just stay home. Like, I say that every time. I've never once said I'm a business owner. I never once told people I'm an investor, a stranger. And I'm like, why don't I? Maybe it's because I'm embarrassed. Maybe it's because I still look like, I know I'm looking older now, but I just inside, I still feel like I'm not worthy, of what I have. And so I just tell people what they expect to hear, which is I'm still just a stay-at-home mom. And, I'm just here on Costco on a Tuesday. I don't tell them I make all this money and own a business and have real estate. I just don't.
You do it now, though, right?
No, I still don't.
Still don't, Casey? Oh my God. I thought you were going to have this like evolved version of like, that was me 10 years ago, Jess.
No,
And now
I
today.
still don't. I still don't. I'm still working through that mindset of it's okay to be who you are and be proud of yourself. I still feel like, maybe I'm not worthy of what I don't know what it is, but I don't tell people for whatever reason, like that I'm a business owner or anything. I just
I
say, oh,
get
no.
it.
Maybe it's just easier to say that than have to explain. Oh, really? Wow. What do you do? And it's like, well, we're just here in the bread aisle. Like, let's just me be a mom and you have a good day.
Yeah, let's talk about Dave's bread and how it's sold to Monsanto. Let's talk about that, you guys. Rather than no, I know exactly.
And that bread makes me sick too now, by the way. So I'm stopping eating that.
I know exactly what you're saying, and I think a lot of people are listening to this right now. Like, why would anybody ever do that? I think it's hard to explain. It could be a thing that comes from like if you didn't come from money, it's almost like you're embarrassed that that's something that you have now. I remember that feeling of like, making my first. I remember when I made what I made in a year at my last job in a month, Casey, and I was like freaking crazy. And I remember I had a mentor. His name's Aaron West, and he was like, "There's going to come to a point in your life where you make what you've made in a year, you're going to make in a month or a weekend." And I was like, yeah, whatever, dude.
Yeah, right.
And like, I remember, I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about this. I wish you guys could see this right now. Hang on, I gotta like hang on to this for a minute because I really enjoy when I get these things. That happened to me, Casey, where it's like that $180,000 in 1 month. That's what I made at my highest point at a company that I worked for. I did that in a month. Actually, it was like a weekend from a course, exactly like we're talking about right now. And I'm just like, it all started with this simple, small idea of just like getting a property and just like you scraping things together and making it happen and spending a year and a half at some, Etsy shop, putting all those hours in to create something just to save enough money to be able to do this thing that you probably ended up buying a fixer and you probably did the BRRRR strategy and you probably pulled the money back out. And you're like, well, what the hell do I do with this now? I'm going to just put it into another property. And then 10 years later, you have all these other properties that are giving you cash flow a month. But it's like, I think people don't realize that like one little tiny thing, that mind shift that happens, or like, I'm going to do this no matter what. And I'm going to go back to what we talked about a minute ago, and you might have something to say, hold on to that. But I believe that, this is my question for you. Do you believe that everybody can be an entrepreneur?
Yes, I do. But whether they want to or not, that's the other question. Everybody can do anything they want to do, but they have to want to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's, and not, I heard somebody talking the other day, I don't know if it was like Elon Musk or somebody that's like maybe Mark Cuban, I don't know, but he said, if the world was full of entrepreneurs, we'd have nobody doing anything other than like, the world would be like the most opposite of what it is now. Like it would be so different. So I realized like there's a place and like there's a space for every single person in society to do a lot of things, but maybe it's not meant to have a lot of people that are super driven and crazy, because it is crazy. Like being an entrepreneur is not easy. Like it's really difficult. In fact, I'm just talking about a coaching job, coaching right now, $180,000 in a month. That was a year and a half ago. It is not what it was 2 years ago to me. Like last year we did 1.8 million. This year we're at about 1 million, if that. So 800,000 in the coaching course just gone. That's what funded my real estate deals. So I think this is again where like people like us have to start to pivot. But the cool thing about what we're able to do here and on the internet is like we get to tell people these stories, so they get to get a little bit of a glimpse of what a life was that resonates with them at this specific moment. And then they can see like, okay, Casey's a mom. She did this whole thing. Jesse's a dad. He worked at a shitty job and continued to build on that for years and didn't just quit right away. He kind of put a little bit of plan together and all that stuff. So, but a lot of that goes back down to routine, like what that actually is. So I want to ask you that. How do you stay in a routine, being a CEO, a mother, a mentor to others? How do you stay on that kind of, CEO mindset while you still have all these, I'm not going to call them, because they are distractions, doing their kids are distractions, obviously kids, but like, how do you maneuver all that stuff? How do you handle that?
I've wondered that. And my answer is I'm never satisfied. So never being satisfied, I feel like, is what gives me the gusto to always strive for more and do better. When people are satisfied and they're complacent and they're happy, where is that drive to get to the next level? If you're happy with where you are, so I wonder, my husband's like, your life is great. Oh my gosh, we make plenty of money. Like, we're time freedom, all these things, you should be happy. I'm like, but if I was happy, would I still want to strive for more? I think that probably is a problem entrepreneurs have, is always wanting to get to that next level. And so that's what keeps you motivated and keeps you going.
Or always wanting more. I think that is and that's something where I'm actually struggling with the idea of like continuing to want more and want more. Like at what point do you become just okay or happy with what you have? And I think that's been an internal struggle with me that, I started with personal development to make money. Like that's where my brain went. And Casey, over the last probably, I don't know, about a year or so, maybe even a little bit longer than that, especially the last 3 months, I've really been diving into more of like the why do I think I need more? Why do I believe that I need to do this? And I think this is where this part of my life is like, the 40s, it's more of like, trying to figure stuff out. Maybe it's just because, we're able to make some cash. Now we have a little bit of time to like sit and think about these things. But at a certain point, it's like that drive for more, it never ends with entrepreneurs. Like there's a certain point where it's like, where do you put the brakes on and maybe start to enjoy a little bit more time with the kids and stuff like that? Or because honestly, being an entrepreneur, like you are going to sacrifice time with your kids. You're going to sacrifice the same thing that you would do, if you're at a 9-to-5 job. It's obviously we're doing it from home. We get to walk out there, we get to take our kids to school, but there's still times where you're probably on calls in 6 o'clock in the afternoon and your kids are waiting for you to eat dinner. And that's part of the game. That's one of the things that I wanted to ask, because you have a lot of businesses and you have a lot of things that you're maneuvering. How do you prioritize time? Do you have are you one of those crazy Dan Martell guys? It's like calendared out with everything, or do you just kind of like go? How does that work for you, Casey?
So I definitely live and breathe by my Google Calendar. And last night, my daughter, she's 13. She loves to do nails. I personally hate fake nails. I've only done them twice once. So she did my nails, Christmas nails yesterday. I can't even type. But we had to schedule that in my calendar because I've told her
Yeah.
for a year she could do my nails. And it wasn't going to happen if it wasn't in my Google Calendar. So I put it in my calendar last night. But we brought our kids home last year, Jesse. They're all homeschooled now, all
Mhm.
three. So I've got a eighth grader, fifth grader, and a first grader. And that definitely helps because I'm here at home all the time. I tried to, real estate pretty much, we do long-term rentals. So I know midterm is a little more work and short-term
Yeah.
even more work. But as long-term rentals, it's pretty set it and forget it. So there's not a lot of effort during the week there to manage those, even though I self-manage. My coaching business, on the other hand, does take more time. And the
Yeah.
most part that takes time is social media. Okay. Creating
Yeah.
social media is the time suck, not my students. I love them. And that's not the time I don't like to do. It's creating content, which is the grueling part.
Do
you
you
know,
enjoy that?
no,
Yeah. Yeah.
not
I
really.
don't either.
No,
I don't
no.
either. There's some people
But
that love it. Like I talked to
yeah,
Pace Marbury and he's like, I love doing this. This is like, I'm just doing what I normally do. And I'm just like, man, how do you have that like energy to, I enjoyed it when I first started, like
yeah,
maybe 3 years ago. Then after that year goes by and you're just like, man, this is like, it's just, it's it's like, it sucks your energy out to do that
it
stuff.
is. And you do the same things all the time. It's like, and like, my main platform is Instagram and it's so chest pounding. I hate that stuff.
Yeah.
I hate that with a passion. So I'm really trying to move more towards YouTube. And next year I'm going to start a podcast. And I want to be like kind of what we're talking about now, entrepreneurial, real estate stuff. Because I want people to know, this is a little off topic, but I want people to know that there is another way.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a 40-hour-a-week job till you die, like my friend down the street. Like
Yeah.
it just takes a mindset change. But
Yeah.
anyways, coming with my kids and stuff, I do schedule everything. And I told my husband today, I listened to this guy's podcast that my sister recommended an episode, and he says every other month, have it scheduled a year in advance to do something you wouldn't normally do. A little 3-day vacation, a little 4-day, because I'm terrible at planning stuff in advance. And if we don't plan stuff in advance, we won't go do anything. And then it's a year full of Zoom calls, going out to eat at the same restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I think I'm the same way. It's like you get stuck in that routine and you stay there. And I think that's part of the CEO mindset too, is like you shift your focus to mindset, discipline, and growth. And that's what's required to actually succeed. You're doing the same freaking thing day in and day out. And I think sometimes those sacrifices that you make are really going to, be consistent in what you're actually building. I think a lot of times people don't realize that. Like what daily habits do you have that have been able to, help you maintain your growth, since we're talking about this right now?
Always, every day, I tell myself, I don't write it down, which I should, but every day I say, what's my goal? My goal is to make X amount of dollars per month, X amount of dollars per year. Did I meet my goal? No. What did I do wrong? What can I change? What haven't I done? What have I been procrastinating about? I have to-do lists a zillion miles long, and I'll write them over and over again, and then I'll prioritize them by what one action can I take today that will deliver the biggest result. Sometimes I'll put on there, take a shower, empty the do the laundry. It's like those are great to check off, but those aren't creating wealth. Those aren't making big changes. So, I'm never a New Year's resolution person, but always at the end of the year, you're like, oh, I didn't do as good as last year. What can I do? Major change, major changes is what I say. I'm making major changes. And this year I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to get out of I really don't like Instagram, and I'm going to do what I do love, which is talking to other people. And I'm going to do the dang podcast, and I'm going to do more on YouTube because I love to deliver content, even though it's hard to make YouTube videos and it takes hours and hours and hours. The content that I produce, in my opinion, is hands down a zillion times more valuable than I made so much money in real estate with an Instagram reel with a song
Yeah.
behind it. Like, I hate that.
I know.
I
Yeah.
just want to change people's lives. And so I need to take big action and get stuff done. And the biggest thing for me is making decisions. I don't like to make decisions. So if I can make a decision quickly, that's going to get me further ahead than always considering and mulling it around and thinking about it.
Yeah, I think, if anybody's out there right now, like thinking about like, what am I going to do? And, I want to build a real estate career or whatever it is. I think content is such a powerful thing. I agree with you. I think lucky enough, my main source of connection with people, I think, is on YouTube. Like that's where it's at. I've been able to create this YouTube channel now that has people that come in and watch it every week. And it's pretty awesome, but they're consuming long form, Casey, and everybody out there is listening. It's like, you guys are consuming these longer form pieces of content where it lives forever. And the crazy thing about Instagram is I can come on here today and be like, me and Casey are making $100,000 a month and blah, 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 blah. People love to hear that stuff. That what brings them in. But then they're going to forget about it 3 seconds after they watch it. In fact, they might even watch the full thing. They're going to watch 4 seconds of it and be like, whatever, next one, next one, next one. Like people have no ability to like stay on a concept for a while. So the cool thing about YouTube is that they'll consume the longer stuff. The short stuff is just to send them over to my YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really a great strategy that I believe right now is like a lot of people are shifting to. They're creating YouTube channels, have their Instagrams or TikToks as just drivers to go to their long form stuff. And I think that's where, if you can, and there's not too many, people are always like, oh, you're going to start another podcast. There's a billion podcasts out there. Who freaking cares? You're an individual person that has your individual space that you've been in. You have your own way of doing it. It doesn't matter. Somebody's going to resonate with you. And I think all it takes, Casey, is one viral video to put you on a map. And I don't think that people realize how much that can actually get momentum going for you, especially if you're even just starting out. And you and I were talking about this before, just getting on camera is like, it just sucks. Like, I don't like it. I never liked it. I hated looking at myself in the freaking camera. But at one point, I'm just like, I got to freaking do this. Like, if I want to create something, I got to have a personal brand and I got to create something and I'm going to put it out there, and who gives a shit what anybody thinks? Because I was so worried about what people thought of me. My neighbors seeing this. I know my neighbors watch my freaking YouTube channel. They're probably listening to this right now. So, hey, neighbors. Hey, Jesse, you need to mow your lawn, buddy. And your Christmas lights, like, you keep them on during the day too long. So he's gonna hear that. But it's like have you seen the Griswolds where they turn on them? His lights are just they're
oh yeah, that's my favorite movie.
So, but yeah, I think starting off right now in any platform, just doing anything is really, really important. Do you see that with people? If you're going to give anybody any advice now coming into real estate or content, which you're doing now, what would you say to them, Casey?
Well, let me ask you this question. Do you want to know what took me to the next level? Do you want to know what changed me from being the stay-at-home mom that buys a couple of rental properties to one who owns her own business and does all these wild things I never thought that I could do? You want to know what that was?
I want to know what that is.
All right. This goes to, this is my advice. It was my mindset. I read this book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. Have you heard of that book?
I have not.
Okay. Well, it's great. You're probably way past it, but you should read that. The Power of the Subconscious Mind. In that book, I learned that the power was within me to make a change in my life. And I know that sounds so duh, right? A duh, of course, but not really. I mean, if you think about it, you always have these limiting beliefs and things holding you back. While I was in the middle class, I can never be upper class. While, I'm a stay-at-home mom, I have 3 kids, or my job doesn't, or my boss doesn't, or the government doesn't, the president, this and that, the society, everything holds me back. Everything is everybody else's fault. Well, when I realized that really my future was in my hands and it wasn't predetermined or up to anybody else, it wasn't anyone's fault but my fault where I was at in life, it was actually the biggest, eye opener, even though you already kind of know that, but you don't know that until you read this book and you realize that, and this gets into the woo-woo spiritual stuff, but everything that you have in your real life starts in your mind first, right? If you dream it, you can perceive it, it can become reality. So, and I'm not very good at visualization. I don't even know if I can visualize, really. I feel like I can maybe, but I don't really know. I feel like my husband's like, I can visualize. And I'm like, I'm not sure if I can, so I'm probably not. No one can really explain it. But I realized that I have the power to make changes in my life. And so I started making the changes. I started saying, I can do it. I am doing it. I am going to get this. I am going to be this person. And I'm going to be Casey 2.0. A long time, Sam Evans had this course several years ago that my sister turned me on to. And it was all about mindset and becoming the second version of yourself. And it's like, when you are that second version, you're going to look back at the first version and not recognize that person. That will be a different person because you cannot get to the next level being the person that you are today. You have to change. This gives me the chills. You have to change into a different person to reach those results. You're not going to become Alex Hormozy being who you are. If being someone like Alex Hormozy is your goal, or whoever, Grant Cardone or whoever, are you going to get that with the mindset you have today, the habits you have today, the beliefs you have today, the types of action you take today, the happiness you have in your heart today? Are you going to get to be like those people by being who you are? No. That means you have to make a drastic change. You need to become a different person. You need to drop all the baggage, all the negative beliefs, all the glass ceilings, all the limiting beliefs need to really thrown out the window because you know that you can do it. It's just a choice.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think, again, going back to my brother conversation, all that stuff, it really is that easy to, in theory. But then this is where, like, what does it actually take for somebody to do that, Casey? So if you had to go back to that older version of yourself, how did you get rid of limiting beliefs? How did you get rid of the ceiling that you had on there? Like, what were like things that you did personally that were able to allow you to see that next version of yourself kind of come to fruition? Because it doesn't. I think you have the idea and the mindset, but then you have to do all this stuff in between to get you to that new version.
It was daily work, daily meditating, daily listening to people like Jim Fortin who have inspirational self, it's all self-help. It's daily self-help. Listening to the podcast, trying all the techniques, meditating, saying I can, I am, doing all the dumb stuff like looking in the mirror into your own eyes and, saying I am this, I can do this. It's self-hype. It's daily. And I felt, last year wasn't actually, yeah, this year wasn't my best year. Just like you said, this year you didn't
Mhm.
make as much this year as last year.
Yeah.
Last year I made a lot more than this year with
Yeah.
all the things. But this year I didn't do as much of that mindset stuff. And my husband's like, I haven't really seen you meditating every night like you used to. I haven't seen you talk about those things like you used to. And it's like, yeah, it's daily work and getting back into that. Being consistent and constantly working on yourself because it's so easy to slip back into, well, I'm just going to sit home and snuggle with my babies today. And I'm not going to do anything because life is fine. It's being complacent. I have to remember, even though life is great, life can be better. I still haven't reached all my goals. So I have to get back into meditating, get back into realizing that this isn't my glass ceiling. I have another glass ceiling to break. It's just consistent work internally.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think, a lot of people will see folks on the internet and be like, man, they got it all together and they got this. And the thing that I don't like about seeing these people that are very, like the Grant Cardones and all these people, they never actually talk about the issues that they have. Like, I have anxiety. I have panic attacks. Nobody ever really says anything. That'll be their origin story. I had a panic attack in the middle of the night and I woke up and I was like, I need to do something different with my life. But then, okay, 30 years later, you're building this career. How do you still not have that? How did you overcome that? I really love when people are able to be transparent and be like, yeah, this year sucked for me. It wasn't as good. I wish I was able to do these. Here's what I didn't do. I was so much in the grind of, in Zoom calls and whatever it is that now I need to go back to this and I need to go back to that. It's like now this person becomes a real person. And I really love those things about how people are able to do that. Not everybody does that though. And I think they're missing out by not doing that because I think there's a lot of people that can resonate with that. Okay, cool. So how many doors do you own now? I didn't want to talk about how many doors and all that stuff, but where are you at right now in your life, Casey? Where are we at? Let's come full circle here.
Well, it's still, we don't do creative financing or crazy stuff. So we're saving the money, buy a house. So we own 10 properties and that includes our house. So we have 9 long-term rentals.
That's freaking amazing. What are you doing a month off of your rentals? And the reason why I'm asking that is because I want people to realize that you can still buy long-term rentals. I'm sure you're doing the 1% rule, you're doing the BRRRR rule, or you're doing the BRRRR strategy. So what does that look like? Are you doing BRRRR strategy? What does that look like as far as financial, assets come? Like, are you cool with talking about that? I mean, you probably do on your Instagram channel.
Yeah.
Already.
So we actually don't do the BRRRR. We just keep all the equity in our house. So what we do is we buy, so since we're in Memphis, which is the number 1 crimiest city in America, number 9th most dangerous in the world as of this year, you have to be really careful where you buy. So we can't buy the really cheap houses. We have to buy some quality properties to be in good neighborhoods. But to cash flow within those B-class neighborhoods, you have to buy fixers. So here we go again, right? Using what we're good at, fixing up properties. We probably own every tool that Home Depot and Lowe's sells and probably multiple of some tools because we can't find the tools in our garage. So we just go buy another one.
Yeah, I know that
So
feeling.
yes, so we will buy properties, fix them up, rent them out. We're working on fixing up the last one that we bought, and we bought it like several months ago. And you do everything DIY, it takes forever. But I don't know monthly, but our gross rents we bring in is once this one's rents will be about $160,000 a year for gross rents, and I would probably say 50% of that is cash flow.
It's freaking awesome. That is awesome. We got to
Not
get
bad.
one of those. We got to turn one of those into a midterm rental and get you cash flowing like 4, 5, 6,000 a month from one door.
I know. And we have this one that people moved out of. I'm very picky with my tenants. So picky. I've had the nightmare tenant and I will never go back to that. And
Yeah.
so we've had one vacant for a few months and it's in a good neighborhood. I'm like, oh, I wonder if we should just midterm rent it. And I'm like, I know Jesse would
Should
help
do
me.
it. I
Thought
always
about it.
anytime I hear people doing long-term rentals, I'm just like, well, what are you making a month on it? And they're like 500, 600, 1,000. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like if they bought it 10 years ago, they're doing pretty well now, right? Because real
Yeah.
estate's a long game.
Right. Yeah.
It's not going to
Yeah.
happen year one, year two, year three. You're probably not going to make anything, but 10 years down the line, you're going to make $500,000, $700,000. I mean, who knows? Rents are
Yes.
always going up, which I think is the cool thing. But yeah, it's crazy. It takes more work. It's not just like you fill somebody in there, but you do have the ability to make $4,000, $5,000 on a door, especially if you're buying stuff in Memphis where I'm assuming it's probably like 150, 200K.
Yeah.
More than that now.
Yeah. So it's about that. The last one we bought was 204, but that was probably the most expensive one. Yeah. Right at the 200 mark now.
In 2015, I wanted to buy in Memphis. I was like super adamant about buying in Memphis because Brandon Turner was talking about it. That's like, he talked about Memphis all the time. He talked about Tennessee. And I was like, I'm going to buy there. I started looking it up. I started talking to agents. I started doing the whole thing. And then I ended up just picking up a property in California. But I always wondered about Nashville and I always wanted to get over there. I think that's really a fantastic market. Even now I have students that are in that market that are just freaking killing it.
Yeah.
And isn't it crazy? Like this is where I want to go full circle with you now that you started this off as like, okay, I want to do this to build some income for myself. And now you actually have a coaching business where you're able to teach other people how to do exactly what you did. What has that been like for you?
It's been amazing. It's really been what I love the most. I mean, I've always wanted to be a teacher. Growing up in California, I wanted to be a teacher, but teachers made no money. Don't be a teacher, said my dad, right? So I never became a teacher, but it's like I can teach now and I can do what I love. I would have never started my coaching business if I didn't have income already from rental properties. It would have
Yeah.
been too big of a risk. So it was because of my rental properties that allowed me to have the freedom and the extra money to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to buy all this equipment. I'm going to invest all this money into like courses and learn how to do it. And just everything's brand new. Pushing go live on Instagram, brand new. Start an Instagram account, a Facebook, a YouTube, all brand new. Learn how to edit, learn how to film a video. I mean, everything was all brand new. And I was just going to go for it.
Yeah. And it's wild to get to the point where you're just like, people are coming to you asking you how to do that already anyway. And you're just like, I might as well just start this course. I might as well, put this thing together. And I would encourage everybody now that's getting into this space, if you have that same, like, I want to do this that eventually at a certain point, document what you're doing. Create a YouTube channel. Just document, hey, I'm going to look at properties today. This is what I'm looking at. I'm a new investor. People love following that journey. Not only that, but you get to go back and watch that stuff 5-10 years down the line and be like, look how far I've come. I think it's really a cool place to be when you're able to create something like that. How many students do you have right now?
Geez. Well, it's a one-on-one program, so I don't put in tons at a time.
Mhm.
But I would say since I started coaching in 2020, I've had probably 200 come through, right under 200. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy to like the possibility of not everybody does exactly what they say they're going to do, but even if you took 50% of those people, like you've changed 100 people's lives or even more than that by people that are watching your YouTube channel or listening to your stuff. Like all it takes is one little nugget. Casey could do it. I probably got this. Isn't that a cool feeling? Like I love that so
Yeah.
much.
Like the coolest feeling really is when you take someone who is like, I don't know, Casey, I'm a mom of kids and I identify with you and I want to join your program. And, we work so hard our 9 to 5s and I want to learn how to buy my first rental property too, but I don't know anything about it. And I go, awesome. And then they join my program and they get their first rental and they are over the moon. Like, oh my God, we have our first rental property. Like now the sky opens up to possibilities. No longer are they just stuck with income from their day job. They now have another way to make money that's going to get them outside the box and get them to retire. Like the fact that I can change people's lives like that, change the trajectory of their life, that is the most fulfilling thing for me that I did that. Like that's
Yeah.
my biggest gain.
It's freaking crazy, huh? When you get a note, somebody's like, oh, I just watched your video and here, 2 years ago, and all of a sudden now I have 3 rentals and it was just that one little thing that you did. I find that to be so empowering and it's just a really cool feeling. So Casey, what would you share? Like, what are 3 pieces of advice for listeners who want to escape their 9 to 5 and build their dream life? What would be those top 3 things that you would give to them?
First, I would say know that you can do it. And if you're having self doubts, go get mindset help. Read that book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. Start listening to people like Jim Forden and start from episode 1. That's what I did and learned all these mindset techniques and get yourself in the zone that you know you can. The second thing, if you have no prior real estate experience and you want to be in real estate, you're going to have to get help. And don't think everybody out there that sells you a course or coaching program is a scammer. They're not. You'll have to weed out the scammers, the people that are just trying to make a buck. But there are plenty of good coaches out there and good programs that can help you accelerate and not, you know, lose thousands of dollars buying bad deals and making mistakes on your own. Like, you can now cut the learning curve. When I started investing in real estate in 2015, 16, they didn't know if courses didn't exist at the time. Never heard of it. So if I would have known of all those things that people could have helped me, I would have done that. But I learned by mistakes and it cost me too much money. So
Yeah.
go get help if you have no experience. Cut the learning curve and let someone help you so you don't make big financial mistakes.
I totally agree with that. Most people are just so stuck in that like analysis paralysis. What am I going to do kind of thing? They don't believe in themselves. And again, that's where that personal development, self-development piece has to come into play, because that's going to allow you to start to see things in a different way.
I agree. And the third piece of advice I would say is work backwards. And it's okay to think big, but I will say sometimes thinking too big is not believable. And if you don't believe it, you can't achieve it. So put a goal. Let's say you want your first rental property by the end of 2025. Okay. That is a good goal. And are you going to go say, I want 10 rentals by the end of 2025? That might not be believable to you. And if it's not believable, then you won't take any action steps to reach the goal. So pick a believable goal and work backwards. Okay, if you want one rental by the end of 2025, what steps you need to do that? You need to have money saved. You need to have talked to a lender. You need to make sure your credit is good. You need to make sure your spouse or partner is on board. Okay, that's easy steps you can do today. You get that started. Next step is, where are you going to buy? If you have no clue, go find somebody's program. Go start doing some research. But you need to have a drop dead date for that. Because I've talked to people that have joined my program that have said, I've been thinking about it for 2 years. I've been thinking about buying rentals for 2 years. 2 years? 2 years. You realize how much money you lost in equity and cash
Mhm.
flow because you sat around for 2 years, sat around for 1 year, sat around and thought about it for 6 months. If you know you want to do real estate, work backwards with your goals and say, okay, by March or by April or whatever it is, I'm going to have talked to this many potential coaches and I'm going to join a program by this date because it's going to take me, 6 months to get the thing done. And I'll have my rental at least by the end, maybe 2. But you have to work backwards. You have to take action steps. You can't just think about it. And sometimes too much research and too much analyzing is going to get you nowhere. You just have to do it. You have to jump in. Like some people say, what do they say? The entrepreneurs, they jump out of the airplane and put their parachute on the way down. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, it really is. Casey, where can listeners learn more about your work and connect with you?
People can find me for sure on my website, brickbybrickwealth.com, as well as YouTube, Brick by Brick Wealth, where I put out weekly, long form, very informational, helpful content on how to get your first rental property. And also Instagram, Brick by Brick Wealth.
Well, there it is, folks. Casey just laid out the fundamental blueprint to get your mind right, to stop procrastinating. And that victimhood thing, that's a really big one. I think a lot of times victims don't like to hear themselves as being called victims because there's a reason why they're acting the way they do. And I do believe that there is a lot of, and again, some things happen to people and it's like not fun. They're not things that are, that are hard to deal with. And I think at a certain point, you have to be able to chalk that up and to be able to move past it and not always reference and fall back on that. And again, I encourage you to get around and to join courses where there's a community of people that are feeling like you, that maybe are listening to you and that will connect with you. I think those kinds of things are so important, which I believe, again, there's so many coaches out there that do care about their students. Casey, you're being one of them. They want to see you succeed. They don't sleep well at night knowing that you're not, putting your effort into building these things. Like I truly, truly believe that. I know there are a lot of people out there who really feel that same way. And a lot of people think that coaching is a scam. Like I've had so many people message me like, your course is X amount of money, it's 6,000 or whatever it is. Like that's a ripoff. You're advertising this. And I'm like, you're advertised all day long by Walmart, Target, all these giant corporations. Why aren't you mad at them? This is a person trying to build something. And guess what? There's a lot of, just like the 200 student plus that you have, there's a lot of success that comes out of those people. And I do believe being able to connect with somebody and having a community, resources, education, and mentorship, that's the tools to build something successful. And you get to steal Casey's 10,000 hours of her last 20 years of in real estate building. I think that's a really promising thing to be able to look at. And it really is encouraging. So Casey, I appreciate you for being here. This has been an awesome discussion. I know we didn't necessarily talk about real estate a lot, but I do believe that this is even more important, this mindset part, being able to see your future, being able to look at our past experiences and, push ourselves forward in a direction that only we get to choose. So I appreciate you for being here. This has been awesome. And I told the audience this was going to be a good show. And guess what? It's been fantastic. Casey, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jesse. It was great.
Thank you for listening to the JV podcast. I'm Jesse Vasquez, your host. I appreciate you for listening. And if you could do me a huge solid, go like and subscribe to this. This helps us tremendously. And as always, thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful rest of your day.